welcome to Sketchbook Club. Today we're going to be drawing a washing line. I love washing lines. There's something so joyous about them and so colourful and breezy and fresh. I even have one up in my studio. Drawing a washing line, you think, that's quite simple. Why do I need a reference? Why do I need to work on this at Sketchbook Club? Well, it's quite difficult to draw them without them looking quite childlike. So with the downloadables, you'll see there is a template. So we're going to use the transfer method, but because it's to fit an A5 sketchbook, it's quite important that you have got one of these shaped sketchbooks. Otherwise the template just won't fit the page. So there are two washing lines. It's up to you if you wanted to just do one or two. I have some samples here done by children and adults, and most of the children decided just to do one. So also with the reference sheets, these are just for inspiration really, but just different colours that you could use and different ideas. Lovely rainbow here. Quite nice to get some lettering on some of the clothes, so much lettering on clothes. And then this page is just a whole mix of patterns and colours, just for inspiration really, but feel free to copy any of them. Also, what we've done here is we've used actual string for the washing line, and actually children have really enjoyed using this. So anything you've got, I've just used some twine, or this book has just used some string, and you're just going to glue that on after you've done the painting. So to transfer onto the book, you're going to use quite a sharp pencil, and you're just going to go over every item. Don't forget the pegs and the string. Press down quite firmly because you want that line to be showing really clearly when you rub over the back. And this is going to be your template, which you're going to add the colour to. And also feel free, once you've transferred it onto the page, to change it. If you think, actually, I'd much rather draw a pair of frilly bloomers here or something, then make it your own, just completely change it, it's completely fine. And it was really hard to try and do this without this template. And they really do look like they're kind of blowing in the wind. And it just makes it look sort of a lot more of a sort of adult's representation of a washing line rather than a child's. It'll just mean that once you've got that image transferred, it's a case of then sort of decorating it. It takes away that kind of worry of, well, oh, is it going to look like a child's washing line because it's just sort of cemented and it doesn't have that lovely breezy quality. If you're doing one, what you might want to do now is think about where that's going on your page. So if you're doing two, as it is, put it on the back on your paper and rub over the back. But if you're doing one, you would probably want to position that up here rather than down here. But actually, with the top one, I'm not going to position it quite as high up. As I'm only doing one, I'm going to move it down a little bit so that it's not so squashed at the top. So then you're going to hold it very firmly and you're going to just scribble on the back. It does really remind me of school, where you had to kind of rub over tracings of complicated bits of maps or biology details. Keep turning the pencil around so that you've got a bit more pressure on it. It's better to use the side of the pencil, otherwise A, you risk tearing the page, and B, it's not as much kind of pressure. And it's only the outlines because you didn't draw inside the clothes, so just around the outsides of the whole thing. So don't worry about the middle gatefold of the book. It'll probably tear a bit like it has there, because it'll make sense once you take the page away and reveal what you've transferred. You'll see what's missing very easily, and you can sort of fill it in with your pencil quite happily. So obviously if you're doing 2 washing lines, this will take a lot longer. Scribbling over the whole thing. Right, so you'll end up with a scribble or 2 scribbles, and then when you take it away, you're left with this fabulous template. Where it was hard to rub because of the gatefold, you can see it's very easy to make out what was missing, and you can just draw it in with your pencil and any other bits that were sort of harder to see. So don't worry about the paint coming through on certain pages. That just adds to the charm of the sketchbook. And now you can have some fun. So what we're going to use is gouache paint, a whole set here. And actually the best thing to do is to sort of create your own little palette, a little dot of each. You don't need very much. And the great thing about gouache is it doesn't stop the pigment when it's dry. So you can always go back to it later. Treat it like a sort of hard watercolour block. It still carries on having that paint. So what we're going to do is, using the reference and just for inspiration really, paint each of your sort of tea towels or pants or socks or clothes, whatever it is, paint them and try and think about the palette. Try and think about them all having really lovely bright colours. So don't worry about the pattern too much, because we're going to add all that afterwards using coloured pencils. So it's really a case of just adding colour, almost like a sort of base colour. Some people have used these fluorescent paints, which are fantastic, which are quite hard to find, but if you can find them, they do add an amazing kind of burst of colour, like this child's one here, and makes it really zing out. But the lovely thing is about gouache and pencils, and I know I've said this before, but they make the most beautiful surface to draw on and to work on with the pencils. And you'll find that it's going to be a lot easier if you're going to do something like a spotty t-shirt or a starry tea towel. It's really satisfying, lovely to do. Just use a sort of sharp blue pencil over the top of your gouache and it just goes on like a dream. It's a really lovely surface to work on. So next you're going to take your palette of gouache paints that you've made, and with your small brush you're going to mix the first colour. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and then I'm going to zoop it up with this incredible fluorescent colour and then calm it down again with a little bit of white. So you end up with this really lovely sort of tangerine colour. Make it a bit thicker. So then I'm going to paint the whole of the background of one of these items. So this looks like a sort of tea towel, and keeping the paint quite thick, cover the whole area. So you're going to do this with all of them. Choose a colour and cover each of these items of clothing or tea towels or socks with strong colours. So now I'm going to show you another little technique. I'm going to add a little dot of black to the blue. So with your blue, let's add a tiny bit of black so it becomes a much darker blue. We're going to paint these trousers dark blue, turning them into denim jeans. So keep the paint quite thick. So you're going to cover the whole pair of jeans with this really nice sort of dark blue. This is really dark actually. You might want to make it a little bit more blue. So wait for that to dry. Another nice thing you can do, I'm a big fan of using bits of old books and newspaper and old maps or anything you have around. This person's done a beautiful pair of trousers just cut out of them, and it just looks really sweet, and it kind of adds a bit of variety. The method for that is take a bit of tissue paper. I'm going to do this tea towel and drawing over with pencil the shape that you want, and then quite simply you're going to hold it over your book and then cut it out. It just means you've got the shape. It's a nice easy way of making sure it's going to fit the image underneath without second guessing, which is always a bit tricky. So once you've cut it out, discard the tissue and then you can stick that over the top, and it looks really effective when you're making up all your clothes on the washing line. One lovely idea is if you have a pair of jeans on your washing line, some reference here of where the stitching would go, you can sort of draw in the stitching using a sharp white pencil. This example has been done by a 12-year-old boy, and it's beautiful, it's fantastic. So using that reference, just start to put in the detailed stitching, and it's such a nice technique. Don't worry if the pencil breaks, it happens all the time. And then of course you can draw in these nice pocket details and all the little stitching that you can see. Now I haven't rubbed out my pencil, but you might want to, after you've painted it, just to rub out all the little pencil lines. But it's a really nice effect, and it's just a lovely way of making jeans look like jeans. It's a really nice way of adding detail. Now I'm going to have a look at the reference and be inspired, and okay, I might draw some spots because I've just seen that. It's that lovely chalky surface which is so satisfying to draw on top of. I'm just going to add the detail that I want over the top using my red pencil. So you'll see how effective that is. So anything like stripes or checks or any patterns that you want to add them with your pencils rather than your paint, and you'll find it just looks like you've got an incredibly stable hand and you've done it with a really fine brush, and it's cheating. So when you get to the end, just draw a half as if it's reached the end of the fabric rather than just stopping, and it really will give it a sort of three-dimensional feel. Continue drawing the spots and adding the little missing bits at the end like that, and then it gives a really nice feel. So what you can do as well to give it an extra three-dimensional feel is use another pencil just to give it a bit of shading so that it really does feel like it's sort of floating around. And this is quite handy if you've gone over the edges and it's a bit rough. It's fine because you can just add a little bit of pencil to kind of give it some definition. So continue like this until you have a really lovely row. I'll show you some of the ones that have been done already. This one's very delicate. She's used white paint with a very fine brush, but she's covered it in little dots. And here she's got some pencil polka dots, similar to the red ones I've just done. And some lovely detail here using the pencil, and some patterns, and also just some definition. So this red jumper here, she's used some purple pencil, and it's really given it some definition. And add more detail, again, using pencils, stripes and diamonds, and looking at the reference, just to kind of inspire really. And then if you've done 2 lines, you might want to keep it quite simple and just have the 2 lines as the spread, a lovely, simple graphic image. And then you'll be ready to stick on your string. The best way is to use a brush. I'm just using some craft glue, and you're just going to get a big dollop of craft glue and just literally put it across your line. If you turn your brush, it creates a sort of line of its own really, a little kind of groove, and do that right the way across, creating a ridge really, because you want the string to really sort of have something to bond with. And then you're literally taking your string and just dabbing it down and sort of roll it on top. It'll be slightly drawn to it anyway because it's so nice and sticky. So you'll notice there are little bits at the end, that's fine. All you have to do is cut them off. Now once it's stuck down, it might be quite a nice idea to kind of add the pegs in different colours as well. This is a lovely example where all the pegs are slightly different colours, which is kind of true on washing lines, isn't it? So if you wanted to, that's it. However, interestingly, the children wanted to add a bit more, and this little boy has just it's so simple but so pretty, has just added some grass. So you might want to do the same, but you might want to do it a bit more finer or do some flowers. And this person has just painted the whole thing completely blue. And this boy has added some clouds. We did something like this at another lesson and he'd remembered it and he'd put the clouds in, which is really effective. And again, he's put in some paint, lovely thick paint here, and very expressive and full of colour, which I loved. And interestingly, here's somebody from my Sketchbook Club who's just gone for it and just painted a whole completely different scene, which is gorgeous. So it's entirely up to you. You might want to just stick to the simplicity. I really rather like it when it's that the clothes are kind of speaking for themselves and they're just against this white background. It's a lovely spread and I hope you'll be happy with it. If you want to share it, show it to everybody, and also see what everyone else is doing, use the hashtag. It's quite a long one, Sketchbook Club washing line, and then I can see it too because I can't wait to see them. So I hope you have fun with your washing lines.